Hello and welcome to the Phoenix 5 Info Show. I'm your host, Lieutenant Vince Lewis, coming to you once again from police headquarters in beautiful downtown Phoenix. Here with the co-host, Rob Scher, PIO Sergeant Extraordinaire.
Extraordinaire.
I added that title.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Because you're doing such a great job.
I am present and accounted for.
Yes, thank you for obeying orders
Again,
to appear.
Yes.
I don't know why I think that's hilarious.
It is. I do what I'm told.
All right. Well, we brought a friend of ours in to talk about some progress that we've made in one particular area. I want to go ahead and introduce our guest for this show, Lieutenant Scott Kane, Resource Lieutenant for the Cactus Park Precinct. Cactus Park Precinct is located at 39th Avenue and Cactus Road, Northwest Phoenix. It goes as far north as
303.
Anthem, yeah. As far south as Indian School?
Yes.
Okay, but you work that little triangle or that little quad, you work well with Maryvale to the south, and then Mountain View to the east,
As well as Desert Horizon Precinct and Black Mountain Precinct to the east.
So there's one. The only precinct you don't border is South Mountain
And Central City.
Oh, okay.
But
I forgot about
the
that.
I-17 is the great divider here for a lot of the city.
So we're celebrating. Well, we're marking this occasion. It's been a year since the Real-Time Operations Center opened up in Cactus Park Precinct. We launched in March of 2024. And here we are. It's been about a year. Let's talk about what the RTOC is and some of the successes we've had.
Yep. So before we get into that, I do want to kind of jump back to talk a little bit to the history of how we got to where we're at today. So back in 2022, the City Council approved the Community Safety Plan, which essentially brought together a lot of different departments from the city: Neighborhood Services, the Police Department, the Prosecutor's Office, Office of Homeless Solutions, ultimately to ask these departments, what can you do to help make this area, a safer place for people to live and work? So from the Phoenix Police Department, what we proposed was the Real-Time Operations Center, which is a technology platform that utilizes gunshot detection equipment, license plate readers, and cameras within this space, and then that relays the information back to our specialists working at Cactus Park Precinct, who can then relay information to our patrol officers responding to calls, but also they work with investigators to help solve crimes as well. So since 2022, it's been kind of a slow integration process to get the different technology in place. March marked when we had all of the technology up within the space. However, we have been to degrees operational leading up to this. So they've got a lot of experience, especially with gunshot detection equipment, with the license plate readers, because that predated the cameras. Cameras just being the last piece of the equipment to come on in March. So as we're coming up into the year, specific to the different types of equipment, wanted to talk to the technology that we have in the field. So gunshot detection is essentially pretty self-explanatory. The technology that's in the field identifies the spaces very accurately where activations are occurring. Now, the specialists working back in the center, when they receive these activations, they have to identify, is this a gunshot that's occurring in the space? We get a lot of other ambient noise, construction noise, backfires. They have to decide, is this gunshots? And then from there, does it meet our criteria to dispatch officers into the field? So if you look at, looking at last year alone, so in Cactus Park Precinct in 2024, they analyzed over 61,000 activations within Cactus Park Precinct. Now, with that, they made calls for service for 645 of those activations. So they deemed those to be actual gunshots. When officers responded out there at 214 of those scenes, we located shell casings at those scenes. And as you both know, shell casings are like fingerprints to guns. It's a great way to solve crimes. Specifically wanted to talk to a success that we had recently in mid-July, where the Real-Time Operations Center specialists identified a gunshot activation in the area of about 35th Avenue in Campbell. So they recognized the activation, were vetting it. A secondary activation came out moving north along 51st Avenue. Ultimately, as calls for service began to come in, we identified a suspect vehicle where these shots were being fired from. The vehicle made a westbound turn and headed into Glendale. So our real-time operations center specialists have a great relationship with the real-time crime center in Glendale. They were able to relay that information to their real-time crime center. At the same time, our communications operators are communicating with their dispatch center in Glendale. Ultimately, we relay over the vehicle description information, and they're able to stop that vehicle in Glendale. And we were able to put all that the investigation together and make the arrest. So it was a great success just from the technology and the two centers working together.
Yeah, it shows how police work in and of itself is advancing, and this is a prime example of using all that technology. You kind of had the benefit to a degree, I would think. I think at times you were probably overwhelmed, quite a heavy lift getting this thing even from, hey, this is a great idea, to now we've got cameras and all this other technology that you have. Is there anything in that period from idea phase to 1 year into this that surprised you, that you're like, oh, that technology did this, or it was a hurdle that you and your team had to get over? Anything surprising in this last year?
So as far as surprising, what I would like to say, it is when you first step into this realm, it is a bit overwhelming. We had a lot of support from the Homeland Defense Bureau and the partnering cities that have existing real-time crime centers. We leaned on them very heavily. But when we actually were trying to put down operationally how we're going to work within the precinct, our center specialists, the civilians that we have that work in these centers, are incredibly talented. And from the beginning, just the specialists sitting down with us and helping build this out in combination with the patrol team members that are in the precinct, it really helped make a blueprint for how these types of centers will directly support patrol. And I think ultimately what I think was the biggest surprise for me is the spaces where, because we're always looking to go to try and address violent crime within the space. However, on a day-to-day basis, what we see a lot of are like traffic accidents. And how beneficial is it if you're a patrol officer responding to a traffic accident, if you could potentially know, you could see that traffic accident, you could know who might have been at fault before you even get there. And you might even know, do we need medical attention? Do we need additional officers to respond to this? Or can one officer handle this? It was great information, but I think it mostly surprised me the traffic space that we occupied within it. So I'm also very surprised with how much the other investigative units, from the get-go, I knew like our Violent Crimes Bureau would be very involved with the center. And we initially, when we built it out, we brought them in and we're trying to figure out the best way for us to communicate this information with them. But I mean, the human exploitation and trafficking unit works with our team all the time. The transit unit works with our teams all the time. It's surprising how beneficial it is just across the board to all the different entities within the police department.
Scott, let me put you on the spot here. Just run down, if you could, off the top of your head, when it comes to an average real-time operations center call. The police are going to the call as a call for services is generated. Those are the officers with the badge and the gun. But tell me about the other players that are involved in this. So we know staffing is always an issue, and we're looking at creative new ways to bring on talented individuals who may not be carrying guns and badges. Name some of the players that are involved in a particular incident that aren't police officers.
So the center specialists, being our civilians that are providing the information to the officers in the field, are the main supporters of the real-time operations center. We don't have sworn working within the centers, with the exception of the sergeants that are overseeing the centers, and they are providing. We always need additional officers. I think what this center essentially is able to do is supplement officer response to these calls to a degree that they would know what they're coming into, and do they need to take a look at, hey, do we need maybe some additional personnel, some additional tools that we could bring to this incident before we get there? And that is quite the advantage that they would have, just having camera access to it.
So we have civilian criminal analysts, we have the civilian communications operators, we have the people in the community who are making the phone calls to us.
Correct.
We have the vendors that we're dealing with on, making sure that the tech is working, and then we've got civilian investigators who may be involved in the aftermath. We've got a lot of players here who aren't necessarily cops that have a place in this world with the real time.
in the center itself, these are police assistants that are in there, as well as our criminal intelligence analysts that is in the that are in the center itself. But I can't stress enough how important the Homeland Defense Bureau is, and the back-end support team that makes all of the technology work, how fundamental they are to the success of the program as well.
How about within the precinct? Obviously, we're cops, and change is difficult at times for us, to put it very nicely. How about within the precinct with these officers that didn't grow up on the street with this sort of technology? I handle my call doing it this way. How has the buy-in been from them once they see the advantages? Because we can all see as supervisors, man, if I know this is there and I can bring assets to this, or I got to come from this direction, or whatever it is, the officer safety, conditions that come from the advantages that come from something like this. But what about buy-in from your officers, really finding different ways to use this center and really do what they can, quality life issues, in this area?
Great question. And yes, so that initially when we were building this out, I think the advantage to having kind of more of a slow rollout is that officers are able to familiarize themselves with the different pieces of technology a little more slowly. Some officers absolutely embrace the technology, and they want, they want the information coming in either sent to the computers in their cars, and others, maybe a little closer to my age, might be a little not quite as quite as interested in the technology. However, I sat down with a seasoned veteran on patrol and broke down like the different spaces that we were able to assist, and the one space that he absolutely thought this would be pretty amazing to have was in the traffic arena, because that being able to go to a call and know what had happened before you even got there was he thought that was very impressive. I'm talking to you, Santos Robles.
I went to the academy with him. So yeah, this is incredible. So the Real-Time Operations Center, active in 900 for the last 12 months plus. We actually have about 6 months ago, we launched another Real-Time Operations Center in the Desert Horizon precinct, and that's the 56th Street and Paradise Lane just south of Bell precinct that handles pretty much everything from the 101 south to, oh boy, the
Camelback.
It's the east side, and they border Scottsdale, but as this patchwork continues to expand, I can only imagine that we're going to link up with other cities and possibly get more real-time operations centers and maybe even a real-time crime center to kind of manage everything from the top. So this is incredible. Thank you for sharing that. We'll see if we can make some more of those stats available in other sources that we have. And I want to thank our guest, Lieutenant Scott Kane, for showing up.
Appreciate you having me.
Hitting us with that knowledge.
Yes.
Thank my co-host, Rob Scheer.
Thank you.
I want to thank the crew for producing. Thank you, the listener and viewer. Just so you know, you can catch the video versions of these 5.0 episodes on our YouTube channel, and that's PHXPD on YouTube. I'd like to remind everybody that you too can help solve crime in your community by sending tips to Silent Witness. Visit silentwitness.org and call 480-WITNESS. Visit us on all social media platforms. We are hiring. Go to joinphxpd.com. And remember, we're all in this together.